team like Kyrie and KD, or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s, but no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy HenDawgz, and we back to it. You know how we do it. The tragic story of Len Bias. This is a pretty sad situation. It's actually crazy. If you never watched Snowfall, the new season that just came out, the very first scene in the first episode of this season, they kind of explained the story a little bit. They kind of didn't really explain it, but they put this story in the show. Like, it was a fictional, it's a fictional show for the most part, based on true events. But they kind of explained the Len Bias story a little bit, and it was actually pretty interesting. But this is a crazy story, man. If you don't know, then this is a perfect video for you to be watching, because kind of explain what happened to Len Bias in this video. It's only a 7-minute video too. I think what I'm going to do for this is going to be my intro. This is the intro to the Len Bias situation. And then I'm going to go and, react to a bunch more longer Len Bias videos. Just to dive like deeper into this whole tragic story. Because I know a little bit about the situation. I know the tragic thing that happened. He died the night of him getting drafted to the Boston Celtics. He went out and partied, had a cocaine overdose, something crazy like that. But I think I wanted to really understand and really kind of see exactly who he was as a player, because I didn't really watch any highlights. I just knew that he was this very good player. They got drafted as the second pick, and then he died the night of the draft. That was pretty much all I knew. But I didn't really know. I see that he played for Maryland. I see that he was supposed to be the next man up to help Larry Bird. Like, there's all the different things that I'm starting to hear. So I'm like, hey, let's react to some of his videos. So before we get into this video, man, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 5K. Make sure you like this video if you like this video, and go ahead and write something in the comments. What other players do y'all want me to react to? And also give me some information on Len Bias. Give me some stuff that I probably won't know, some stuff that you think that I won't know. I feel like that's the great thing about this channel. I want to learn more about Len Bias. This is something I just kind of thought about. Like, you know what? I think it'd be cool to learn more about Len Bias. So let's do these reaction videos. I have a platform now to where I can actually learn about him and help people that also don't know about him learn about him. So I feel like this is the dopest shit in the world, man. I love my job now. So let's get into this video. We got the tragic story of Len Bias. Let's get it.
When somebody mentions Len Bias, 3 things usually come to mind. Dominance at the University of Maryland, second draft pick by the Celtics in 1986, and a shocking death caused by a cocaine overdose. Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski said in 2003, "This is my 24th year at Duke. And in that time, there have been 2 opposing players who have really stood out. Michael Jordan and Len Bias."
That's crazy.
Len was an amazing athlete with great...
Super high praise. Super high praise. I heard what Coach K said, that the 2 greatest players that, that got his respect is Michael Jordan and Len Bias. So this just wasn't just any player. Like, I think that's something that I got to think about, and that y'all got to think about. Like, this wasn't just any player that unfortunately passed away, which would have been sad regardless, no matter who it is. But just the thought that it was a guy that was supposed to, like I said, was supposed to come in and pretty much help the Celtics out tremendously, just happened to. So it's crazy, man.
Competitiveness. Like Jordan, he could invent ways to score, and there was nothing you could do about it. No matter how you defended him, he could make a play. Was Len Bias really as good as Michael Jordan? And what led to his tragic demise? Find out in the rest of the video.
Okay. Shout out to Nonstop Sports. My first question, I'm sure they're gonna answer it, but I want y'all to answer it for me. What was Len Bias's game like? What position did he play? How tall was he? What was his comparison? Who did he play like? Did he play like was he like a Jordan type player? Was he like a Grant Hill type player? Was he a shooter? Like, big man? Like, kind of let me know what was Len Bias' game like at Maryland before he passed away.
To the most dominant player in college basketball.
Crazy.
In his first season in Maryland, young Len Bias shot 48% from the field, averaging 7.1 points and 4.2 rebounds in 24 minutes of play, which wasn't necessarily bad as a freshman, but it wasn't exactly great either. However, Bias had an excellent work ethic and had trained hard in the offseason. Strength training, ballet lessons for balance, and dribbling with a blindfold for better handles. Len was doing everything to get better. It paid off, and in his sophomore year, he was already averaging 15.3 points per game on 57% shooting.
You look pretty big.
6'8", and with 220
6'8".
pounds of pure muscle,
6'8",
Bias
220?
developed into one of the most athletic players in the NCAA. He was fast, explosive, and he was dunking as if he was jumping from a trampoline.
Oh my God.
He modeled his jump shot after Bernard King, and when he became proficient, there was nothing any defender could do. Bias would either go around you, shoot over you, or run through you with Sean Kemp-like aggression. On top of that, he was the most versatile defender in the country, and would often guard taller forwards and centers. As a senior, his transformation to the most dominant player in college basketball was complete. Playing both forward positions, Bias was simply unstoppable, and averaged 23.2 points and 7 boards per game, on 54% shooting and 86% from the free throw line. He was twice voted as the best player of the ACC Conference, and made the consensus All-American second team in 1985, and the first team in 1986, after which he declared for the NBA draft. Selected into a dynasty with the second pick.
Shout out to the Bird Gang. Shout out to the Celtic Gang. I know y'all watching this video. And this question is for y'all. Where was Larry Bird at during this time as far as his career path? I think they said 86 is when he got drafted. So I think that was what? The Boston won in 84. Lakers won in 85. And then he was supposed to get Len Bias in 86. Is that how it went? So I know Larry Bird was I mean, he of course is way bigger than basketball. He shouldn't even be thinking about basketball, but kind of crazy because I know in the back of Larry Bird's head, he like, damn, like this superstar athlete is supposed to come in and help me, and a tragedy happened. This is crazy. It's crazy.
Red Auerbach is often considered
Red
as the greatest GM in NBA history. Red had a championship team, and the '86 Celtics had just celebrated their third title in 5 years.
Oh, they won in '86.
Apart from Bird, Parrish, and McHale, and an already deep bench, they also had the second overall pick, which they acquired 2 years prior via trade. Auerbach said he had planned.
Oh yeah, Red goated. And my bad, I ain't mean to cut him off when he was talking about Red, but oh yeah, Red goated. He not only did he win the championship, but he also had the number 2 pick. Hey, that's great GM ownership skills right there, man. A lot of people ain't doing that. You gonna either be trash and get a good pick, or you're gonna be, super good and have a trash pick. But he had both. Like that's GOAT shit.
And to pick Bias in the draft for 3 years. They wanted Len so badly that they spread rumors about him only for Cleveland to pass him over. It worked. The Cavs drafted Brad Daugherty, who would go on to be the best player in team history before some guy named LeBron started playing there.
Some guy.
That left the Celtics with Bias, and everybody thought that the Celtics are going to be unbeatable, because it just doesn't happen that the current champions draft the most dominant college player a week after they won the title.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Little did everybody know that dynasty dreams would live for only 2 days. From the moment David Stern said Len Bias was the second pick, to the time his friend maniacally repeated his name to a 911 operator. Last 48 hours. As the draft approached, Bias was starting to feel a lot of pressure. Everybody knew he was going to get picked in the top 3 and become a millionaire. Suspicious types began to move around him, according to the people he had been hanging out with then. Bias dealt with that pressure by going out and staying up late in clubs, things he dreaded just a couple of years before. The draft was in New York on June 17, 1986. A day later, Bias went with his father to Boston to sign a contract and begin negotiations with Reebok in a $3 million sponsorship deal. Reebok saw how Michael Jordan propelled Nike to a global brand and hoped to achieve the same with Len. From today's perspective, $3 million seems ridiculous, but at the time, it was an extremely lucrative deal. That same evening, Bias returned to Maryland to his dorm room, where he spent the night in the company of childhood friend Brian Tribble and his 2 teammates, Terry Long and David Gregg. They consumed cocaine, which was too pure and too strong. After he snorted his final line, Bias started to feel sick. He began to stumble, then lay back to bed, where he suffered a series of heart attacks. At 6:30 a.m., Brian Tribble called 911. Fueled with cocaine, he couldn't stop repeating Len's name. "This is Len Bias. This is Len Bias. You have to bring him back to life. He can't die." Paramedics showed up at 6:50 a.m. and found Bias unconscious and not breathing. Attempts at resuscitation failed, and he was taken to the hospital where he was given all possible medication, but nothing worked. In the last effort, they implanted a pacemaker in his heart, but it was too late. Len Bias was pronounced dead at 8:55 a.m. Legacy and Jordan comparisons. Bias's death sent shockwaves around the whole basketball world and beyond. Pablo Escobar and Cali Cartel were earning billions selling blow to America, and sports stars were not immune to their product. Seeing an athlete as strong as Bias succumb to cocaine and die from it, the war on drugs in the States came in full effect. The NBA also changed, and the firm no drug policy was instituted, and many players from the era were banned for cocaine use. Generations that came after Bias were brought up on stories about it and the devastating effects of narcotics. Scouts and managers started paying much more attention to the lives of the players off the field, rather than just their performance.
Off the court?
In some twisted way, the loss of one of the greatest basketball talents changed the NBA for the better and saved many lives. 4 days after his death, 11,000 people gathered at Len's funeral, and they all wondered what we are wondering now. What could have been? And what if Bias played in the league? In almost all parameters of the game, he was as good as Michael Jordan. Bias had LeBron's body with a great jump shot, was equally good on offense and defense, and could jump out of the gym. Even his approach to the game, killer instinct, and the desire to be the best were very similar to Michael's, which is very rare. Bias had that hunger and self-confidence that he can do everything on the court, and that's what separates the GOATs of this game. Would Len Bias really be MJ's biggest rival will forever remain unknown. But one thing is certain, Len Bias is one of, if not the most talented basketball players ever not to play in the NBA.
Damn, that's tough, man. It kind of sounds selfish from a basketball fan standpoint when it's just like we just wanted to see how good of a basketball player he could have been. Like, this man lost his life. Like, the last thing we should be thinking about is basketball. But I mean, you kind of got to think about that because it's like the what if. It's the what if, man. Like, I'm sure everybody thinks like that. Not just me. Not just me. I'm sure a lot of people think like that. But that's sad, man. It's a sad story. I'm definitely gonna dive more into the Len Bias story. This was like I said, this was like my intro to the Len Bias story. But I appreciate y'all for watching this video. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel if y'all haven't. Make sure y'all like this video if y'all like this video. And go ahead and write something in the comments. Yeah, write some more information on Len Bias. Let me know what you think about Len Bias. What you thought about his game. Did he actually have the potential to be just as good as Jordan? They said that he was going to be Jordan's rival. Do y'all agree with that? Let me know in the comments. But I appreciate y'all like always. We out.